My living expenses are basically nil. I'm basically paying zero rent. I have no overheads. I have no mortgage. My bills are tiny and I have access to really good food.
What are your living expenses? Sorry to be so crude, but like what are you living on a week?
I mean, it's a money podcast. This is what
yeah.
It's going to last your whole life.
Yeah.
That would be mental because we're building houses that last. Like, why wouldn't we do that? You know?
Yes.
So it's the same with tiny. It's no different. It's been working really well, surprisingly. Like, I'd be quite introverted and like my time alone, but that's great because I've got a big giant workshop here that I work alone in.
Yeah, yes.
And it's a great time of year. Like, the winter will be a different story. Do you know what I mean? Like, the weather's been as good as it's been the last couple of weeks, or you're living outdoors half the time anyway. So the limitations of the space aren't so bad. And like, eventually we'll get a bigger house or we'll get another tiny house, but for the next couple of years, this will do just fine, you know?
And is the workshop like a shared sulking space? If somebody needs to go off and have a sulk after a fight, like where is that space? No,
this is my sulking space.
Okay.
Yeah. No, Kat has her own.
Where's that?
Kat works with a growing collective in a polytunnel that's on site here in the
nice.
So, the Black Block Collective, they're called, which is run by an incredible guy called Bruce Darrell, who's got a YouTube called The Red Gardens, which is amazing because it gives us more or less free access to really good organic vegetables. Because to be honest, financially, the last couple of years have been massively challenging. Like, I left a really well-paying job, a good job, to kind of risk it all on this, and that has been great crack, but it's not making me that much money yet. So that's been quite challenging. But the other side to that coin is that my living expenses are basically nil, and the only way I've been able to do this for as long as I've been doing it is because I'm basically paying zero rent. I have no overheads. I have no mortgage. My bills are tiny, and I have access to really good food. So, you know, it's worked out incredibly well in that sense, and I feel really privileged and lucky that I have that opportunity, you know?
Yeah. So tell me, like, what are your living expenses? Sorry to be so crude, but like, what are you living on a week?
I mean, it's a money podcast. This is what
yeah.
Like, I can live on 50 quid a week easy and still have pints, you know?
Yeah.
So it's mainly food, petrol, and that is it. Like, look, don't get me wrong. It's been a lean couple of years. I'm not exactly going on 10 holidays a year or doing anything like that. I try not to go to Dublin often because every time you even look at that town, you end up spending 200 quid, you know?
Yes.
But the main expenses are groceries, like the stuff that we're not growing or that the collective isn't growing, you know, it's staples and stuff like that. And then fuel for the car and a few pints at the weekend, and you're laughing like.
So are you looking at all your friends back in Dublin and thinking, like, does the rat race suddenly look even rat racier?
It does and it doesn't, because like I'm getting a lot of satisfaction out of the work that I'm doing, but I'm also seeing my friends, because what I'm seeing with my peers, and like a big driver in this for me was that, like, yeah, I just about saved enough to get a deposit for a house together, but like I couldn't see a lot of people that I was close to being able to do that, and I thought that was absolutely mental, and it's grim out.
Yes.
And people are leaving the country in droves, and sure, we all know that this is going on, and I felt there must be a better way, there must be something else we can do here, hence going and trying to do this whole tiny house thing. And again, not saying that this is the solution, but it can be a stopgap or it can be a solution. And to be honest, it was almost born out of pragmatism too, because realistically, like, I've more than broken even on the rent I was paying versus the total cost of this house by now, you know? So yes. I'm sitting on my initial investment. I'm building one for a couple at the moment and their baby, which is absolutely insane that the three of them are going to live in it. Yeah. It is bigger than mine, but, you know, fair play to them. But sure, they're going to break even on the rent they're paying locally within 5 years, and then they're sitting on basically 70 grand, you know? So it's not just an alternative, it's a pragmatic solution as well.
Yes.
But sorry, what was the initial question you asked me there?
Just about the rat race looking rat racier, I think is how I put it.
Yeah, I mean, harsh. But, I think, you know, it's tough because people are making good money, but it's just not enough relative to the cost of housing. So you can live your life if you can find somewhere decent enough to live, to rent, and you can go on a bunch of holidays, you can have loads of nice things. And obviously from my side, living really lean, I'm looking at that and going, you know, I wouldn't mind having those nice things again, you know? Yeah. But in the long run, I'm hoping this pays off for me. And like, to be fair, it's worked for me from a pragmatic point of view. I didn't have to try and make a business out of it, and I could always go back to the freelance-y kind of stuff that I was doing before,
yes,
to meet in the middle somewhere. But, you know, you can have a good life renting and working, you know, this is just an alternative, and I do really enjoy it. I have really enjoyed it, and the course side of things, teaching other people to do it, it is incredibly satisfying. I found it hard to go back to, we'll call it the rat racy stuff, because once I moved into my house, I went back to freelance and event stuff. But I had kind of lost the graw for it. I was kind of like, this just doesn't, it's such a competitive industry and it's very detail focused, and it's hard to really truly care about those details if you don't really truly care. And my whole time I was doing it, I was like, why am I doing this and not the house stuff? Like the house stuff really matters. I could really help people doing that. Whereas the running the huge outdoor events, like it's a fun way to make a living, but I didn't feel it was the best use of my time, basically.
Yes. So how much training had you done? You did the course in Clough-Jordan, and then you got down to it. You started building your own house. Like what level of training had you done at that point?
Yeah, like basically none. I mean, the course was completely irrelevant to house building. The course wasn't anything to do with house building. Like,
so it was a weekend course in foraging or something?
Pretty much. Like, it was a permaculture course, and it was a really good course. I'd recommend it. But it doesn't help you build houses, really.
Yeah.
It's an inspiring thing to make me go, oh, I want to do something that I think is important, rather than, but it wasn't nothing to do with here's how to build a gaff.
Okay.
So I had loads of project management experience, and ironically, as I have to wear many hats running a business now, I've become quite a poor project manager because I'm too stuck doing the actual day-to-day work instead of managing the whole business and myself. But I had a heap of project management experience, so I was very good at managing budgets and looking at times and figuring out what materials I needed and all this kind of stuff, because I've been running outdoor events for 10,000 people. There's a lot of similar skills within that. But in terms of hands-on tool skills, I really didn't have much. Like, I learned more in the 4 months I was building the house than in like the 28 years I'd been alive up to that point.
Sure. So trial and error.
Trial and error, the internet, Google, everything, reading everything, bought a few ebooks, all this kind of stuff, tons of YouTube, figuring out who's a charlatan and who actually knows what they're talking about. Definitely leaning on some friends who are tradespeople or trades adjacent to be like, that will work, that won't work. But it was really just, it was just problem solving. It was just complex problem solving. And the really nice thing about the tiny houses is that they're not that complex an engineering problem compared to a conventional house. Like, the loads involved, the weights involved, they're just not the same as a conventional house. So the fear that you're going to just do something that's reckless or dangerous is a lot lower than if you were just trying to wing it with building a conventional, like, huge house.
Yeah. Are you a quick learner by nature?
I suppose so, yeah.
Okay. I'm just trying to understand, could I do it? I guess essentially, like, where, like, what were the biggest... Okay.
You absolutely could do it. Anyone could do it. That's the thing that I'm trying to preach without leading people astray, is that, like, absolutely anybody can do this. And, like, I've done 100 students through the courses that we run this summer, and nobody has not been able to figure it out or pick it up, Like, that's the most satisfying point of all of it, has been the one day beginner course we do, is seeing somebody, like, showing someone how to use a tool, the fear in their face of going, there's no way I can do that. There's no way I'm going to be able to do this. And within about 20 minutes, they're doing it, and they can't believe it, and the training wheels are off, and seeing the change in them, the confidence that can build for people. And like, there aren't many opportunities to learn to get on the tools other than going into the trades, which is just not accessible unless you're actually going to make that your career. So I genuinely think anyone can do this. I think maybe I had a knack for picking it up quick, and I went full-time hardcore at it, like, sure. I quit my job, I went all in, which is a way quicker way to do it. If you're trying to do it over the course of 10 weekends in a year, it will take you years to get there. Like, it's like a language, it's like an instrument, like, it's a skill that you build a vocabulary up and you practice and you get better. But honestly, I still haven't met anyone that couldn't do it. And I've had some people come and I've thought, this is going to be the guy that's just not going to be able to get this. And they've even proved me wrong, and I've still been able to get it. So I really think anyone can do it. Anyone can get on the tools. Like, the quality of modern power tools is absolutely incredible. It's the only reason I was able to do this is because the tools have gotten so efficient and so affordable and have such good inbuilt safety features that it does make this way more accessible and way more easy than it has ever been, Yes. That, and the fact that there's so much information, like the internet has democratized a lot of the information that you would have had to pick up at an apprenticeship otherwise. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying this is ever going to replace apprenticeships. It's just a completely different thing that makes it more accessible as almost like a hobby until you want to actually get a return from your hobby in the source of building something, whether it's shelves at home, a shed, or maybe a home.
Yes. What about the cost of materials? Have they gone up a lot in the last few years alongside everything else?
It's absolutely insane. They've gone absolutely through the roof. There was loads of supply issues during COVID. A lot of those have since been fixed, but the prices haven't come back down. Obviously, like, we just can't meet demand in the country, and we're an island. We're not producing that much timber. All the timber comes from up north. The quality isn't always the best. Like, I often have Germans come and do like internships and workaways, and they just can't believe what we call timber versus what they have.
Wow.
Insulation's gone through the roof, concrete levy, like, It's sad, really. It's grim out because it's so hard to get labour alone, yet alone trying to get enough materials to do the job. Even now that the speculation of this small garden rooms thing is coming in, I'm seeing materials become less available because the type of construction you do for smaller structures is quite different to conventional, and I'm seeing those kind of more awkward materials disappear in a lot of suppliers. So,
oh, do you think people are stockpiling?
I think people are just ploughing ahead, to be honest.
Oh, interesting.
Speculate, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What kind of holes do you see in that? I mean, I know it's very early days. It's all kind of speculation right now. We haven't really got anything set in stone. But if it was to, come the way they're flagging it, what kind of holes do you see in it?
It's a tough one for me to answer because I'm not an expert at all, and I'm not really a construction professional. I haven't worked in construction sites my whole life, so I'm not the person that could really be answering it. But I guess you've asked and I'm on the podcast. So I think the fear would be that the regulations kind of go mad and all of a sudden people can build what are essentially bedsit apartments and charge an insane amount of money for them, which is already happening. Like, we've had tiny houses here for a long time. We call them bedsits and they cost a load of money.
Yes.
And I would wonder, is the reason it's coming in to make the housing figures look better because it would make the current government look really good because these houses will get built. Like, it took me 4 months to build the shell of mine as a total amateur. Like, professional tradespeople could bang these out in no time. So all of a sudden we've built 10,000 houses that we otherwise couldn't keep up with demand. That wouldn't be great if it was actually just tiny houses, because those were supposed to be houses for 4 people, not for one, or, bit bigger. But those would be the fears. But I think anything that gets us a step closer to these being a more legitimate and more common practice is a good thing. If you even look at living in a tiny house from when you're in your 20s to your late 30s and how much money you could save getting on the property ladder early, I think it all makes a lot more sense. Like, the last thing I'm suggesting is that people have to live in a tiny house that they don't want to live in for the rest of their lives, because that would be mental.
Yes, yes. But that's a nice way of looking at it, though. It's a kind of a segue, like do you know what I mean? Yeah, an onboarding ramp of sorts. But back to your own house, your own tiny house. How long do you anticipate it's going to last for? Because that's one of the things. What's one of the big reservations people have about tiny houses? That this idea that they're only going to last 20 years or.
That's just so funny, really, I think.
But you've heard it too, right?
Not really, but people do ask you, how long is the house going to last? Whereas anyone who builds a conventional house would never ask that question.
Yes.
When you go to buy a house, you don't kick the walls and go, how long do you think this is going to last? It's like, it's going to last your whole life.
Yeah.
That would be mental, because we're building houses that last. Like, why wouldn't we do that? You know?
Yes.
So it's the same with the tiny house. There's no difference,
Okay, got it.
It's a timber frame structure, but it's built to last forever, and if it's built right and it's maintained right, it will, Yes,
yeah. And being on wheels, like, how would you actually get it from one place to the next? Can it just really just attach to the back of anything?
Back of a Jeep, yeah, as long as the Jeep has got enough power to have the towing weight that it can tow something that's 3.5 ton, including its own load. So a big Jeep, basically, like a big Jeep. Like, you wouldn't want to be hitching it up to the Toyota Yaris there. You'll burn the thing out, plus it would not be legal at all. But
yes.
Big Jeep, the one I'm building at the moment is so big, like, I wouldn't even be arse moving it with a Jeep. I'll get a low loader, which is a type of trailer, and a tractor, because it's not even going far from here. And it'll just make life a little bit easier. But the wheels are a challenge. Like, the wheels add a lot of complexity to the build, and they change the constraints. So they're not ideal, but obviously they have the advantage of you can move them anytime you want for quite cheap. But you can build tiny houses without wheels if they're just built as modular houses that can be moved. So they're built to similar dimensions, but you can stick them together easier, move them with a crane. And there is a lot, like, that does simplify things a lot, because the wheels complicate things, because you're making a home that also has to act as a trailer, but it's going to be acting as a trailer for 10 hours of its 50 to 100 year life, whereas it's going to be a home for all of the other time. So it doesn't really make sense from a design point of view. It's a bit of an annoyance to have to do that, but there's ways around it.
How are they evolving? Have you seen any kind of like trends emerging in the way they're being built, or any kind of new interesting add-ons?
I mean, at the start, when I started looking at them, I felt like it was mostly people that were interested in it, single builders, architects, master crafts people that were building them. Now they're getting built in factories by teams of people. They're getting churned out. I think on the mainland, particularly in America, there's factories absolutely churning out these modular homes and stuff. And it just makes so much sense. Like, think about the production line and how that revolutionized the manufacture of cars. That's what needs to happen with housing. This is a step towards that. So, yeah. And
can you take me through the house? Like, imagine you're bringing me to this house, your house, to have a look around. So we open the front door. What do we see?
Yeah, this shouldn't take long. You open the front door. I mean, you walk up onto the deck, first of all, which is a relatively new and essential addition to the house, especially in the summer. But then you open the front door, right in front of you is the couch. So you can sit 2 people in that comfortably, or 3 slightly wedged between each other. And that's also where a mate stays if they're staying in the house, like they can sleep on the couch. There's a kind of fold down desk on your right there, which is where I'd usually do a podcast from, but I'm in the workshop today. And it can be a workspace as well. And it's got a small screen that we can use to watch TV, and plants everywhere. And then there's a staircase to the left of that couch. So you're looking at that staircase and you come in, which is 90% of the storage. And it also hides all the electrics, like the inverter, the charge controller, the battery for the house. And that also works as furniture. So it's not a conventional stairs. It's all double height and double depth. So you can sit on it. I can use it as a standing desk, which is quite useful. Then there's what was a makeshift kitchen, which is just turned into the kitchen on the left, which is a very simplified kitchen. And then there's a fridge freezer on the right, which I get slagged about a lot because it's massive for the space, but it's a luxury that I love having.
Yeah.
There's a pull-out pantry, a wardrobe, and then there's a toilet and a shower beyond that, which the toilet and the shower is tiny, but sure, you can't have it all.
Yes, yeah. So you went for the big fridge freezer, but where do you actually get smaller pieces for tiny homes? Is there anyone actually actually specifically selling like tiny accessories for tiny homes?
Not so much, no. I mean, like you can make them like a car where they're 12 volts, and you can buy boat or truck type things because people have been like boats, like long boats would be a version of tiny houses that people have been kind of living in for a lot longer, like narrow boats. So if you want a tiny stove, you're looking for a boat stove. But the problem is all of that stuff tends to be quite expensive because it's nichey. And that's a real problem with delivering tiny houses for a good price, is that it's not really very easy to just go into B&Q and buy a kitchen carcass that's going to fit. You kind of have to custom build everything. You have to custom build the staircase, ideally the furniture, because the only way the spaces work when they're tiny is that they have a multiplicity of functions. So like things that fold down, things that fold away, things that move, things that have more than one function built into them. And that just costs time and money. Like a great saving would be to be able to bang a bunch of them out, because the more of them you make at once, the better the saving is going to be. But yeah, that is a challenge with them. There aren't very good, like smaller non-conventional appliances just aren't as good, really, generally speaking. So I don't really recommend them. I went for the big fridge freezer because I was so used to living in rented accommodation where you've got basically the area of a shoebox in a fridge to keep all your stuff, and now I've got a giant fridge and it makes me feel like I'm rich, basically.
Yeah. And do you have to be a little bit more I don't know, like army like even in the way you live? You know, does everything have to be lined up and a little bit more kind of functional?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. Like, I just am naturally a little bit like organized in my space, and I like it to be that way. But sure, my missus isn't. She's very chaotic, and that doesn't really cause too many problems.
Okay.
I don't think you have to be. It just depends on how you like your space to be, you know?
Yes, yeah. What's your favorite part about the space?
That I don't owe any money on it, I suppose.
Yeah, that must feel good.
I mean, that and that it's really warm. Like, I've only lived in basically concrete and block houses my whole life. Like, the house I grew up in, like, it didn't have like much insulation. I don't think there's any really, like, you'd be seeing your breath in the winter. And I couldn't get over how warm the house is. Do you know what I mean? The timber frame one that I built. Like, I went all out with the insulation. It's an airtight house. It's got 2 systems of insulation, including a continuous insulation barrier and an air-to-air heat system. So all of that was well designed, and it worked out quite well. But I can't get over just how warm it is. How little energy I have to put in to heat the space kind of still blows my mind.
Yeah.
So I love that, just from a frugal, boring point of view, but also just from a like, this is mad. This is what we should all be doing.
Wow. How much does it cost a year to heat the space?
I spend a couple of £100 a year on electricity in the winter. That's like, if even like probably about 150 or something.
Yeah.
And then I buy a bottle of gas, which does my hot water for the showers and for the sink and that, which is another that fluctuates in price massively, but roughly 150 quid a year. So that would be about a total of about 300 off the top of my head. And then it's just free energy all summer long then, you know. I'm
tallying up your expenses in my head here.
Yeah,
and I'm like, what would it be like if you got invited to a destination wedding? Would you just be like, no chance?
It's great. It's great, you know. Try to just bring the house, and there you go.
Yeah. So tell me, if I wanted to build one tomorrow, because we did mention the price of materials has gone up, so it's a bit different when you started. Mm-hmm. If I wanted to build a 1-bedroom one tomorrow, ballpark, what would it cost me?
It's a good question. I mean, if you're doing it yourself, you'd want to start with the figure of 40 grand in your head and go up depending on the complexity, you know.
Okay.
Like mine was less. If I'm building them for other people, it's going to be a lot more, but that's because the labor cost is built in. And 40 grand is conservative. It's going to be simplistic, you know, but it really depends. And I think if you're going to build it tomorrow, it's going to cost you way more than if you build it in a year, because if you know it's coming down the line, you can start to get good deals. And when you're building such a small space, you can use secondhand stuff. You can use secondhand windows and doors. That just requires you to be looking around for them and having a spot that you can keep stuff. And looking for good deals. Like, you're looking for so little material that if you need it in a rush, it'll cost you because you have to get weirdly sized things. But if you can wait, you can get much better deals. You can get seconds. You can do more with it. And it very much depends on the quality of finish you want to go for. Like, if you're happy to make it, if you're happy that it's going to be rough and ready because you're an amateur that's building it, it's going to cost you a lot less than if you want it to look like a house from a magazine. It's going to cost you. It's just going to cost you through the roof. Then once you get into complex materials, finish carpentry, all of that kind of stuff, it gets very expensive.
Yeah. I interviewed a lady about 6 months ago, and she took me through all her costs, but she bought it from Poland. And the biggest shock to me was the cost of delivery.
Yeah.
So I suppose that's one thing about going with somebody like you, you know, that they're gonna strike that out. You know, obviously delivery is going to be a cost, but not international.
The delivery in most of Ireland's only going to cost you a few £100.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Shipping them internationally is mad. Like, I have a friend who's Austrian who built one in Austria, and he's like, he's still going to deliver it, but he's going to do half of it himself because the materials are just too expensive here for him to rebuild it. But I mean, yeah, getting one from abroad is interesting because the material costs and the labor costs are just so insanely low compared to Ireland, you know?
Yes.
But at the same time, you're going to have to pay so much to get it there. It's a tough one. Plus, your involvement in the build is going to be, it's so much less. Like, it's so much harder to judge a space online or in a 3D render than to stand in a space, you know? Like, the couple I'm building this for are in the space every month looking at it, and we're making decisions and we're figuring it out, because I think that was one of the hardest parts for designing mine and figuring things out, was like getting the scale right and figuring out where you're going to put stuff. Like, even if I drew it on the floor, it still doesn't give you, it's very hard to get your head into that space of like, actually, this is the physical limitations of the space and this is what's going to work and this doesn't, you know?
Yes. Tell me, what about the resale value? Because you don't often see them on the secondary market, because I guess, you know, people don't sell through traditional avenues. But can you tell me how that works? Yeah,
I mean, I would expect and hope that the resale value is really strong. I mean, the materials for mine had gone up by something like 20 or 30% by the time I was building the next one, which is insane. So I would hope to flip mine eventually for quite a large profit. Like, if it's properly built, then it shouldn't age, and then it's just like any other structure. And if materials keep going the way they're going, and labor, like, they're only going to go up in value, you know?
Yes, yeah. And then getting back to planning, like, what are the tiny house hotspots in Ireland? Are there any kind of little communities bubbling up around the place?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
And I'd say there's a lot more people and a lot more tiny houses than we know of, because people are probably quite quiet about it because they just don't want to get in any kind of trouble, or they just don't want the attention, which is maybe the way I should be. But sure, look, everything's legitimate here.
Leitrim does strike me, though, as a place.
Leitrim, yeah. I mean, you can get planning for absolutely anything in Leitrim because there's nobody there. Isn't that right?
And is that the other thing? Like, obviously, the planning is different county council by county council. So is that what you're kind of seeing on the ground as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's always the local authority, and it depends on the community. It depends on the development plan for that area. Like, because obviously we've gone away from ribbon development; it's more cluster now. But it just depends. It's very case specific, you know. And it depends on the site, and it depends on a bunch of different things. Like, planning is tough. It's almost like its own trade separately, and I wouldn't be an expert really at all, you know.
Yeah. And have you had any opposition against them? Like, has anyone kind of, you know, said you shouldn't be here, you shouldn't be building these, it's not good for Irish society?
Surprisingly not, or at least not too vocally about it. Surprisingly positive reaction from the people I would expect to have been, because there's oftentimes I'm speaking at a trade conference that's to do with construction or something like that, and the imposter syndrome is through the roof. And tradespeople and architects are actually surprisingly open to it most of the time. They're often like, that's amazing, that's really cool that you did that. Whereas you'd expect those people to be like, you can't do that, you absolute maniac, you know? Yeah. Which the odd one would be like that, and to an extent, I can see where they're coming from. But at the same time, like, we're in a crisis here, and we need to find solutions that are more out of the box and more innovative than just doing the status quo, because it's clearly not working.
Yes.
I mean, I'm sure if I shouted a bit louder and I tried to build a tiny house village, which would be the dream someday, then you're obviously going to get people coming out of the woodwork that think you're a complete maniac. But I think the fact that they're on wheels lends them quite an interesting transience, because Like I could approach a council or a landowner. If there were 20 people living in 20 tiny houses, I could say, we can move into that empty site literally in a day's time. And we can try this out for 6 months. And if it works and it makes a benefit for the local community and it's contributing socially to the fabric of the local community, then let's keep doing it. And if it's a complete disaster and people hate it, we can leave in 24 hours as well. So I can't, like, give that a go.
That's wild, like the circus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's an interesting concept.
I think it is too, for
I think
sure.
It's worth trying, and especially for the people that want to do it, because there are the amount of people that get in touch with me that want to do it, but they just can't. It's a bit of a chicken and egg thing where they can't really get planning without going the whole hog and actually doing it and owning a site, but they're also too afraid to push ahead and make any kind of investment without planning permission, which is completely understandable. So we need some kind of bridge in the middle, like a pilot program to try it out is what I would be interested in, which is what I'd hope to get to someday. Like I'm keeping myself busy doing actual construction work, but probably need to take a step back and look at the bigger picture stuff, maybe.
And tell me more about this village, like this dream village. Where would the dream location be?
Wherever will have us, I suppose.
Okay, yeah.
I know, like, let's say on the coast in Wicklow somewhere,
Yes.
West Cork.
Yes.
Wherever. I mean, like, it's more interesting to just see where it could work and where it would work. And I mean, like, we already have like the bones of a bunch of them there. Like, there's mobile home parks all over the country. It's just making them more of a permanent fixture and seeing how they can work and sharing amenities. And I think it just could be really interesting because for the people that want to do it, because it does allow for a complete lifestyle change. Like you kind of work your whole life to afford a house that they're averaging like 350 grand at the moment, where you could get one of these for, 20% of that. Like, that's quite a game changer. That goes from like, you're going to have to work in that job for the next 40 years to pay this off, to you're going to have to work in the job for the next 10 years. And then you can have a change of career, then you can retire early, whatever, it's kind of mind blowing when you think about it. And it's not that unrealistic. It's not that far from reality. It's not that pie in the sky. I think it's completely doable.
Yes. So it removes a lot of the shackles, the invisible shackles, I think, that we're not aware of day to day. Anything else like that? Like, I'm curious. You move into this tiny space. I don't know what you were living in before. You mentioned rent. I'm assuming maybe an apartment or. So you're in this much smaller space. How else does that change you psychologically? Like, because it's a shift of perspective. Did you notice any changes to you in your psyche or your general psychology?
Not hugely, no. I mean, it's just a smaller space. I definitely think what we've already said, like in terms of you don't care about stuff as much because you simply haven't got the space. You learn very quickly what's important to you and what you actually just don't care about, because you just end up throwing away all the stuff that you don't care about.
Yes.
You just prioritize and make space for what's important to you. But in terms of my psychology, my psyche, like, obviously the money thing was mind blowing for me, and it took me. It's still hard to get my head around that because of what I had said. Like, now the idea of a huge mortgage or a 350 grand mortgage seems like the most insane thing in the world to me.
Yes,
and like that's an unfair way to contextualize it, because it's the only option for 99% of people. So of course we're going to have to do it, because how else are we going to get somewhere to live? But when you're on the outside of that, all of a sudden you kind of think like, Jesus, they're pulling the wool over our eyes a bit there. You know what I mean?
Yes.
There are. Yeah, it does feel like that. You get a little bit cynical looking at the banks and state of the country and going like, hang on a second here, like this isn't cool,
Yeah.
I think my perception of money certainly changed, just because, as we've discussed already, I'm living on so little money, which has given me the opportunity to work so much unpaid for my own business that I'm trying to build, as well as like I do a couple of volunteer jobs around, because I've still somehow got the time for that. And that's been an interesting shift, because the value of money kind of changes quite a lot, which is hard to quantify, but I think it's a very positive thing, really, because you just don't need as much of it, which kind of opens up, it takes a lot of pressure off. Like, it's a very privileged position to be in, and I don't take it for granted, but it does really change things. And don't get me wrong, it would be nice to have more money. It would be nice to be making more money, but I know, like, I could live on such a low salary compared to what I'd been aiming for my whole life. If I was to give up this crazy kind of mission to help people live better lives through tiny houses and go back to like a more conventional 9 to 5, it could be so much less insane than what I was trying to get to before,
Yes. Do you feel like there's more opportunity out there for you now in terms of a new career, or if I want to go off and learn a new instrument and spend a year doing that, does that feel like it's more accessible to you?
It's hard to think about it because I'm so bet into what I'm doing. I'm so focused on
Yes.
building the houses. I'm so focused on building the business in terms of courses. I'm so trying to reach more people that I can't even, like, I play guitar and sing and I play banjo, and I basically gave all of it up when I built my house because I was like, oh, you can't do that at the same time. And I never really got back to it because I've
Yeah.
just been on so driven on this kind of mission. But at the same time, I do think to myself that, like, if I have to give this all up tomorrow and go back to living a normal life, that, I've done it now, and that was a mad thing to do in my late 20s, early 30s, and that I would have no regrets of it. Like,
Yes.
but yeah, I feel like the pressure of finding a career that's going to provide for me is a lot less intense, because I feel like I've got one of the most important boxes ticked now.
Excellent. Nice. Well, look, we're going to wrap it up, but one quick question before we go. For anyone listening to this who is inspired and wants to go on this journey, what's the first 3 steps for them? First 3 things you'd advise them to do?
Good question. Figure out why they want to do it and be, like, very resolute in the reason that they're doing it, because it's not impossible, but it's not easy if you were to go the whole hog. I would suggest them to go and stay in a tiny house somewhere if they can find one. And most of all, I'd suggest them to take a course and start building stuff at home, start practicing, because that's really the bones of it. And the entry level to this is very low commitment. You can do a course for a couple of £100. You can go and buy some timber and some cheap tools, and you can start making stuff, and you can do that over a bunch of weekends in a year, and you can very quickly decide for yourself, I can do this, or I don't know if I can do this. But if people want to do a course, they can get in touch with me. They can find stuff on the website and smallchange.ie, and I'd be more than happy to help out any way I can.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing, and that was great advice. Thank you, Paul.
No problem. Thanks a million. We'll see you again.
Bye-bye.